Hello, I'm Tim Edwards and I'm joined by Sam Elmhurst as we bid you welcome to a special Christmas edition of Chatterbox. We would like to start by responding to reports about last year's Christmas edition where we appeared to have a party. I'm sure all who attended would say it was more of a meeting than a party. And anyway, they didn't attend as there wasn't a party. Wouldn't you agree, Sam?
Oh yes, after all, if there had been a party, there would be a record of it. Well, let's hear a clip from the 2020 Christmas special to quash those rumours.
Let's start by imagining we're at a party.
Oh!
A party with friends and familiar voices. You've got your best suit or party frock on, a glass of something nice in your hand. Pleasantries have been exchanged, and the party soon warms up.
Oh, drat it.
Oh yes, we'll move swiftly along. This year, we thought we'd use this opportunity to celebrate.
Celebrate what?
Well,
Anything in particular?
okay. Mike Blythe is retiring from Chatterbox after over 30 years.
Well, Tim, that's a bit cheeky. Celebrating him leaving.
No, I mean celebrating his fantastic achievement of setting up and running the listeners' panel, which we rely on for suggestions for Chatterbox and keeping us on our toes when things don't go as they should.
That's different.
And it will be different. Mike, his wife Trish and I had a chat and he chose 5 tracks to play and talk about. What stories he tells, that's coming up later.
What else are we celebrating?
Well, we should celebrate the fact that we are still here. I'm not going on about that coronavirus, but many people have suffered so much these past nearly 2 years that it seems appropriate at this time of year to step back and appreciate what we do have.
That's right. And we do have some fun and games coming up. And in the words of Shirley Bassey, I'm coming out, so we gonna get this party started. Or, sorry Tim, something like that. Although it's not really a party. And so we have several familiar voices joining us at the party. Did you mention games?
Yes, last year we had a film themes quiz that proved rather popular, so this year it's a Songs from the Films quiz. So many famous songs appear in films that don't mention them in their titles. As usual, the answers will be on a later track so as not to spoil the fun.
As well as games, you mentioned fun?
Well, I didn't specify if it was a lot of fun or just a wee bit of fun. I leave you to judge the cracker jokes yourselves. We round off with some musical items and spoken word pieces that have been requested by listeners. So get yourselves comfortable, fill a glass with your favourite and sit back for the 2021 Chatterbox Christmas Special.
Cheers!
Make 'em laugh. Don't you know everyone wants to laugh? My dad said be an actor.
You must be crackers!
Or you, don't be rude.
No, I meant that as the introduction to what I feel will be the most appreciated section of this edition, the Christmas Cracker Joke-a-thon. Who doesn't like a pun-filled, pithy statement masquerading as humour? All right, put your hands down. We are joined by several Chatterbox regulars to spread the absolute joy of terrible jokes with you. But first, Sam, what do you know about the origin of traditional Christmas crackers?
Christmas crackers are a British tradition dating back to Victorian times, when in the early 1850s, London confectioner Tom Smith started adding a motto to his sugared almond bonbons, which he sold wrapped in a twisted paper package. Now, the story goes that he was inspired to add the bang When he heard the crackle of a log he had just put on the fire, he decided to make a log-shaped package that would produce a surprise bang, and inside would be an almond and a motto, and soon the sugared almond was replaced with a small gift. Now, originally sold as a casaque, it soon became known by the public as the cracker. But it wasn't until the early 1900s that the paper crown was added by Smith's sons, Tom, Walter and Henry, after he died, and gave the business to them. The idea behind the paper crown is thought to have originated from the Twelfth Night celebrations, when a king or queen was appointed to overlook the proceedings. And then, by the end of the 1930s, the love poems were replaced by jokes or limericks. They're corny and seldom improve with the telling, but Christmas lunch wouldn't be complete without the chorus of groans that corny cracker jokes always provoke.
So here is a small selection of groan-tastic amusement read by David Potton, Alison Applin, Sarah Lusher and Kevin Ford.
What's a child's favourite king at Christmas? A stocking.
What do you get if you cross a Christmas tree with an apple? A pineapple.
What do reindeer hang on their Christmas trees? Ornaments.
How do snowmen get around? They ride an icicle.
Who is Santa's favourite singer? Elvis Presley. Who do Santa's helpers call when they're ill? The National Health Service. Ooh.
What does Santa suffer from if he gets stuck in a chimney?
Oh, not that old chestnut.
Afraid so. It's claustrophobia. What do you get when you cross a snowman with a vampire? Frostbite.
Why are Christmas trees so bad at sewing? They always drop their needles. How does Christmas Day end? With the letter Y.
What do snowmen have for breakfast? Snowflakes. What does Santa do when his elves misbehave? He gives them the sack.
What is white and minty? A polo bear. Huh? What would you call an elf who has just won the lottery? Wealthy. Ah.
What did the stamp say to the Christmas card?
I've no idea.
Stick with me and we'll go places. What does the Queen call her Christmas broadcast? The One Show!
What do snowmen eat for lunch? Iceburgers! When is a boat just like snow? When it's adrift.
What do you get if you eat Christmas decorations? Tinselitis. What's the most popular Christmas wine? But I don't like Brussels sprouts.
What do you call an obnoxious reindeer? Rudolph.
How did Mary and Joseph know Jesus' weight when he was born? They had a weigh in a manger.
Who delivers presents to cats? Santa Paws!
Oh, that's quite enough of that.
Which famous playwright was terrified of Christmas? Noel Coward.
Oh well, if you can't beat them. Well, here's a letter to you-know-who. Dear Santa, I've been a good mother all year. I've fed, I've cleaned and cuddled my 2 children on demand, visited the doctor's office more than my doctor, sold 62 cases of chocolate bars to raise money to plant a tree on the school playground, and figured out how to attach 9 patches onto my daughter's Girl Scout sash with staples and a glue gun. Well, you see, I was hoping you could spread my list out over several Christmases, since I had to write this letter with my son's red crayon on the back of a receipt in the laundry room between cycles, and who knows when I'll find any more free time in the next 18 years. So, here are my Christmas wishes. I'd like a pair of legs that don't ache after a day of chasing kids, in any colour except purple, which I already have, and arms that don't flap in the breeze but are strong enough to carry a screaming toddler out of the sweet aisle in the supermarket. I'd also like a waist, since I lost mine somewhere in the 7th month of my last pregnancy. If you're hauling big ticket items this year, I'd like a car with fingerprint resistant windows and a radio that only plays adult music. A television that doesn't broadcast any programs containing talking animals, and a refrigerator with a secret compartment where I can hide to talk on the phone. On the more practical side, I could use a talking daughter doll that says, "Yes, Mummy," to boost my parental confidence, along with 1 potty-trained toddler, 2 kids who don't fight, and 3 pairs of jeans that will zip all the way up without the use of power tools. And I could also use a recording of Tibetan monks chanting, "Don't eat in the living room," and "Take your hands off your brother," because my voice seems to be just out of my children's hearing range and can only be heard by the dog. If it's too late to find any of these products, I would settle for enough time to brush my teeth and comb my hair in the same morning, or the luxury of eating warm food, which is warmer than room temperature, without it being served in a styrofoam container. And if you don't mind, I could also use a few Christmas miracles to brighten the holiday season. Oh, and would it be too much trouble to declare ketchup a vegetable? It will clear my conscience immensely. Oh, well, Santa, the buzzer on the dryer is ringing, and my son saw my feet under the laundry room door. I think he wants his crayon back. Well, have a safe trip, and remember to leave your wet boots by the chimney and come in and dry off by the fire so you don't catch a cold. And help yourself to cookies on the table, but don't eat too many or leave crumbs on the carpet. Yours always, Mum. We will be back later with more of these. What are they? Yes, of course, delights. Oh, I think I need to lay down now after all that.
Welcome to our quiz, Songs from Films. Now, many films are well known for particular songs that they include, and yet the song is not mentioned in the title of the film. Some were Oscar-winning songs, so let's tax our little grey cells and see what we can figure out from these. First up is a very famous, nice easy one to start, a very famous black and white wartime film. I won't tell you who's in it, you don't need me to tell you. Let's just go over to the piano.
Sing it, Sam.
You must remember this, a kiss is just a kiss, a sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes by. And when two lovers woo, they still say I love you, on that you can rely. No matter what the future brings as time goes.
I'm sure a lot of us remember that. Next up is a 1960s film, rather radical at its time, And the song that's chosen from that film became a really big hit for the two singers previously known as Tom and Jerry. I know.
And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa. God bless you, please, Mrs. Robinson. Heaven holds a place for those who pray. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. We'd like to know a little bit about your 4 or 5s. We'd like to help you learn to help yourself. Look around you, all you see are sympathetic eyes. Stroll around the grounds until you feel at home. And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Well, she sounds like fun, that Mrs. Robinson. Now, the next one, again, sung by a famous voice. I'm not going to tell you yet who that is, but it's very popular and features in a director's remake of his own early 1930s film. Slightly quizzical there, that one. See what you think. Do you know what film this comes from?
When I was just a little girl, I asked my mother, what will I be? Will I be pretty? Will I be rich? Here's what she said to me. Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera, what will be, will be. When I grew up.
Song 4 is a well-known song covered by so many different singers. Without giving too much away, this impossible song appears in a film of a musical. Perhaps not as well known as the song itself. Let's see what you think.
To dream the impossible dream, to fight the unbeatable foe, to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless.
The fifth song is a jolly little number, and it comes from what you'd call a modern western from back in the 60s again, starring two big stars of the time. See if you can guess this one.
Raindrops are falling on my head, and just like the guy whose feet are too big for his bed, nothing seems to fit. Those raindrops are falling on my head, they keep falling. So I just did me some talking to the sun, and I said I didn't like the way he got things done, sleeping on the job. Those raindrops are falling on my head, they keep falling. But there's one thing I know, the blues they send to meet me
well, that might surprise you when you find out what film that came from. Now, next up, track number 6 is from a film based on a Truman Capote story. I don't know about you, it's a bit late in the day for breakfast, but still.
Moon River, wider than a mile, I'm crossing you in style someday. Oh, dream maker, you heartbreaker, wherever you're going, I'm going your way. Two drifters off to see the world. There's such a lot of world to see.
Beautiful. Now, the 7th track, and last but one, is a little more difficult. I've chosen this specially because I think it's a wonderful track and it's a great film, but not many people might have seen it. So, let's see what you can find from this song.
Well, if you want to sing out, sing out. And if you want to be free, be free. 'Cause there's a million things to be, you know that there are. And if you want to live high, live high. And if you want to live low, live low. 'Cause there's a million ways to go, you know that there are. You can do what you want. The opportunity's on. And if you find a new way, you can do it today. You can make it all true, and you can make it undo. You see, it's easy.
Our last song from the film's track number 8 features Judy Garland. No, it's not that one. Can you think which film this beautiful Christmas song comes from?
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. Next year all our troubles will be out of sight. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay. Next year all our troubles will be miles away. Once again, as
Well, you'll have some time to think about those songs and what films they come from. You can either go for naming the song, or you can go for naming the film. I'll even accept answers based on who was in the film. Have some fun with it, and I'll be back with you later. You must be crackers too. I mean, as well, no, the second part of our festive funnies. So here, with our readers David, Sarah, Alison, Kevin, and Sam again, here are some more alleged funnies.
Why are Christmas trees so fond of the past? Because the present's beneath them. Aha.
Why is it getting harder to buy advent calendars? Because their days are numbered.
Why did the turkey cross the road? Because it was the chicken's day off.
What carol is heard in the desert? Oh, Camel, ye faithful. Camel.
And what did Mrs. Claus say to Santa Claus when she looked up in the sky? Looks like reindeer.
Who hides in the bakery at Christmas? A mince spy. The old ones are the best.
What do you get if you cross Santa with a detective? Santa Claus!
How many letters are there in the Christmas alphabet? Only 25. There's no L.
Santa's reindeer were always fighting. There was a capitalist called Blixen and a communist called Rudy. Rudy said it's raining. Blixen said, oh no, it was snowing. Santa asked his wife which one was right. Mrs. Santa said, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
No, really, that's enough.
As a little girl climbed onto Santa's lap, Santa asked the usual,
And what would you like for Christmas?
The child stared at him open-mouthed and horrified for a minute, then gasped, Didn't you get my email?
Please, no more.
Just before Christmas, an honest politician, a generous lawyer and Santa Claus all got into the lift at the Ritz Hotel in London. As the lift travelled from the 5th floor down to the ground level, one by one they noticed a £50 note lying on the lift's floor. Which one picked up the £50 note and handed it in at reception? Well, Santa, of course. The other two don't actually exist.
On Christmas Eve, Nathan thought it would be nice to buy his wife a little gift for the next day. Always short of money, he thought long and hard about what that present might be. Unable to decide, Nathan entered Debenhams, and in the cosmetics section, he asked the girl, how about some perfume? She showed him a bottle costing £75. Too expensive, muttered Nathan. The young lady returned with a smaller bottle for £50. Oh dear, Nathan groused. Still far too much. Growing rather annoyed at Nathan's meanness, the salesgirl brought out a tiny £10 bottle and offered it to him. Nathan became really agitated. What I mean, he whined, is I'd like to see something really cheap. So the salesgirl handed him a mirror.
Thanks again to David, Sarah, Alison, Kevin and Sam for bringing so many laughs, or not, to the festivities. Hope you've enjoyed our cracker selection. I'm joined by Mike Blythe, who's been a long-time Chatterbox volunteer and is standing down this year. We're very much disappointed to see him leaving us. No doubt he'll always be with us in spirit. And we're also joined by Trisha, Mike's long-suffering wife. So you may hear Trisha in the background. Commemorate the occasion, we're not going to do a desert island discs because as an avid sailor he'd never get stranded at an island or just make an escape from it. So we're going to choose a few tracks that are favourites of Mike's, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his life story through the music. So Mike, welcome back to Chatterbox. And we're going to start with looking at your early years. And you said we're taking it to about 1958, 1960. And where do we find you?
Well, you find me in 1958 is when I started at my nursing career as a student. And part of the student was the social side. And I'm a great lover of jazz in all its forms. As a group, we used to go to the various jazz venues in Norwich, one being the Bedford Arms. Some of the performers there were the Collegians, the Mustard City Stompers, and various other artists. One feature of the Bedford Arms, which always makes us smile a bit, it was quite a small venue, and it was packed solid with folk, all in this in Bedford Arms, and the various bands that were performing, their only quick exit was through a side window and a ladder down into an alleyway at the side of the Bedford Arms, and these guys at half times or whatever it was would climb in and out of the venue through this window and onto the stage. And that was in the early days, say in 58, when I was a student at Little Plumstead Hospital. As well as that, I and another friend, we used to attend the Ronnie Scott Club down in London, which again was, I always seem to have cellars somewhere in my mind. Because Ronnie Scott in the early days, his venue was far from being a plush club as it is properly today. It was just a cellar, and the seating accommodation were just wooden chairs that he'd either bought or borrowed or whatever from wherever he could lay his hands on them, basically. And the venue didn't open till midnight. You weren't allowed to queue outside. If you did, you were soon moved on by the local constabulary. Anyway, so we finished up in the this cellar at midnight, which was the start of the performance. That didn't have a bar as such. They weren't allowed to sell alcohol. We finished up having orange juice, which was the strongest stuff we could lay our hands on, and so that was one of my adventures down there in London. Another place we attended was the Brighton Pavilion, where we watched and heard the Modern Jazz Quartet perform. Brighton Pavilion was a far better accommodation, really, for it was a lot more plush and upbeat, but nevertheless the music is what I went for.
That's brilliant. So it's the late 50s, the burgeoning jazz scene, and we've got all sorts of different artists coming along then. Your first track, Mike, that you've chosen, would you like to introduce it for us?
I would indeed. It would be. This is a performer I've loved ever since I first heard him many, many years ago. He was a very small guy. In fact, they said that he used to have to sit on a pile of telephone directories to reach the keys. Anyway, it's Errol Garner playing his own composition called Misty.
That was Errol Garner playing Misty there. We're moving along, still staying with jazz, and this time we're back in Norwich. So we're not as far flung away as Soho in the late 50s, where Mike spent his time in the cellar clubs, smoking a Galois with his roll neck sweater on, like the classic jazz would be. So we're back in Norwich. What sort of pubs were you going to, Mike, and catching up with the music scene then?
Well, anywhere where they sold alcohol, really.
Of course, back in Norwich at that time, you must have met up with Trish.
I'm glad to say Trish had a very sobering effect upon me. All for the best reasons, really. Actually, Trish and I had known each other basically most of our lives anyway. We lived in Primrose Crescent. Tricia had two brothers, and they were part of our, well, we called it a gang. We had Primrose Crescent, Bottomthorpe. Eventually, over time, we got together, and part of our social life was, well, first of all, I carted her off down to Brighton on one of an excursions from, which was a Norwich City supporters club. I pulled her leg a bit about this because I said, now I've got you down here, love, we've got to spend the night down here, which poor Trish didn't take too kindly to. But that's my sense of humour, really. No, we didn't go to the football match at all. I think we spent her time in Brighton just walking about and just enjoying Brighton, really. We attended various sessions of jazz at the Cottage, which is located on Thunder Lane. And there were various groups there that used to perform. Trish and I loved to jive. Man, there wasn't a lot of room on these dance. As anybody who's been to the Cottage know that it was quite a small dance floor. First things you do would chuck her shoes off and would dance around and
so you'd be swinging Trish around on the dance floor, jiving away. Yeah. What sort of music was being played?
It was mostly traditional jazz, really. Yeah, we did go to the Samson Hercules on one occasion, but it was mainly at the Cottage. This would be on a Saturday night after the Lord Mancroft, which was on Laundry Lane, which is now a co-op. We'd probably start. This sounds awful. It sounds like a pub crawl. But I was on students' pay, so we weren't. We didn't. And halves of beer was about all I could really afford. We'd start off at the Griffin on Thorpe Road, which is quite close to the hospital on the Yarmouth Road. We'd probably start off there with some other friends, and then go to the Mancroft, have some more. After that shut, or they called it 11 o'clock, they would call time, and then move on to the Cottage, which had an extended licence for music, and then we'd while the night away there till they threw us out, basically. But Trish definitely had to be back by, well, that'd be midnight, I would have thought, something like that anyway. But we'd have a happy hour up there at least. And this sort of brings us up to the track that I've...
The second track, yes.
Yeah, the second track of Kenny Ball playing Midnight in Moscow. That's an Nancy.
So with regards to your musical choice,
yeah, messing about in the river, and well, it says everything about what I love about water. I've always, in fact, this has always been a bit of a joke with the family that as a very small, well, as a baby, and I could just crawl. Where if they ever took me to the seaside, I'd always make my way to the water, even if before I could walk, I was crawling towards the sea,
like one of those turtles that are born in the sand,
that's right,
heading straight to the sea.
So I was conceived on the Broads, I think.
He's been all at sea ever since.
Because they were married in 1936, and I was born in 1937.
Right, definitely. Then, by the time that boat moored,
I was on the way.
So, what's the organisation that you're involved with sailing?
Well, it's called the Nancy Oldfield Trust, which was the conception of a gentleman named Richard Kenyon, and that was an ambition of his to provide water activities for people with all types of physical and sensory disabilities.
This goes back to what you were saying earlier about missing the social aspect.
Absolutely.
Mixing with people, sharing a common aim.
That's exactly right.
And this has really sort of enhanced things for you.
Yeah, it did. It brought together my love of the water and the social side, and it really was. Well, yeah, it did. It was a life changer. Yeah, it was.
So when you go on these boats,
yeah,
you're not just there as a passenger.
Oh,
then,
no.
Don't tell me more.
No, the idea is to let you do as little or as much as you feel comfortable doing.
So it's restoring a bit of confidence.
Absolutely. We went to Croatia, and we were sailing in the Adriatic around these islands. A 6-berth yacht. It was, that was wonderful. That really was wonderful. You were out in the open sea.
So a lot of the aspects of the sailing, there are a lot of different sensations then, aren't there? So even if your sight is deteriorating, there are
you get
other.
You get the feeling of the wind. The sound of the water. You get the sense of the power of wind as well, what it does to the boats. Twice we went to Southern Ireland on part of the Shannon water system called Lough Derg. It's a bit like a estuary, really, prior to the Shannon entering the Atlantic. It opens up, and it's something like 25 miles long and 4 miles wide. Twice we went over there sailing with Richard. He was a great competitive sailor. He would get us to all sorts of competition sailing. We'd do follow my leader, and you'd have to do figure of 8 courses, so that you had to meet, as well as going before the wind, you had to tack, and you had to sail through the various points of the compass and all these sort of things he'd put us through. And bless him, he was great. He really was quite an inspirational man. I found him, and always had a sense of humour. Lovely guy. Went far too early, sadly. But I say, sailing in Ireland was quite an experience. The Irish are great hosts, they really are. But they're always going to do things tomorrow.
The manana.
Yeah. One particular time, a real northerly hoolie blew up. It really was. It was a full gale. Being that large piece of water, there were 2 or 3 foot waves on this lough. Unfortunately, that meant that we were scattered to the 4 winds of this lough. I think there was about four yachts we had, 4 or 5 yachts, and they all finished up at different parts of the lough, at different villages dotted around. But when we got chatting to the people, oh yes, he said, yeah, well, we're going to get a lifeboat, you know, at some time or other. And I don't know whether they still are, but anyway, yeah, that was quite an experience. That really was. That was one of the roughest times I'd spent on water. I went up and down the East Coast through another group of people, East Anglian Sailing Trust, which is based at Levington on the Allwell, and I spent several holidays with them, sailing up and down the East Coast, down to Brightling Sea, just by that one chance of this community work and saying to me, would you like to come and join the sailing group? Opened up all this wonderful experience of sailing to me again. I don't know. It's just so great. The feeling of freedom. It's wonderful. It really is. It's just to find words to express how great it feels.
Well, sitting here, I can see you beaming with it. So
Yeah.
that's something, isn't
Yeah.
it? And as
Yeah.
Trish pointed out, it's very much brought you out of a depression with it, really.
Well, it did. It did. You know, the great camaraderie and that is really lovely. And plus that, you meet some lovely people, you know, long-term friendships, you know, lifetime friendships. And unfortunately, I had to leave Trish behind because by then I'd got my guide dogs. Then I think that was a labour of love. Then any excuse to get hold of my dogs. I think she thought more of the dogs than she did me. Oh, no. Yeah.
So do you want to introduce this track for us then, Mike?
And this says everything about how messing about on the river, messing about on water, messing about with boats, I'm in heaven.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Messing about on the river, sung by Joss McRae.
When the weather is fine and you know it's a sign for messing about on the river. If you take my advice, there's nothing so nice as messing about on the river. There are long boats and short boats and all sorts of craft, and cruisers and keel boats and some with no draft. So take off your coat and hop in a boat, go messing about on the river. There are boats made from kits that reach you in bits for messing about in the river. Or you might like to scull in a glass fiber hull, just messing about in the river. There are tillers and rudders and anchors and cleats and ropes that are sometimes referred to as sheets. With the wind in your face, there's no finer place than messing about in the river. There are skippers and mates and rowing club mates just messing about in the river. There are pontoons and trots and all sorts of knots for messing about in the river. With thin boards and outboards and dinghies you sail. The first thing you learn is the right way to bail. In a one-seat canoe, you're the skipper and crew, just messing about on the river. There are bridges and locks and moorings and docks when messing about on the river. There's a whirlpool and weir that you mustn't go near when messing about on the river. There are backwater places all hidden from view, and quaint little islands just awaiting for you. So I'll leave you right now to cast off your bow, to go messing about on the river.
Sailing was obviously a way of getting a lot of physical experiences with the wind and the spray from the water and, as you said, the force of nature, basically. Then again, music itself. That must have played an important part as your sight was decreasing there, Mike. We've heard quite a bit of jazz, obviously, and there seems to have been a rather large jazz scene in Norwich at that time, and now we moved into the 60s, and popular music, records. What sort of records did you have in your collection at the time?
Well, quite a wide selection, really. It's about time I brought a bit of culture into this. And both Trish and I have a wide taste in music, right from, like we've just said, jazz, classic, okay? I would say like classical music, which I know that perhaps people don't think. James Last was one of them. Andre Rieu, who now is very popular today. We saying that though, both Trish and I love The Last Night at the Proms, and we have a couple of occasions have been to the Albert Hall, and that really is, the atmosphere in that place is wonderful. We have attended some concerts there given by the London Philharmonic. They had, as well as that, John Rutter. We've been to some of his concerts there. So like we said, we have quite a wide taste in music.
So this track that you've chosen is chosen to represent that area of light classical, should we say?
Yes, it does. And it is called, it is the intermezzo from Cavaliere, here we go. I'll put my teeth in. Cavaliere Rusticana by Mascagni.
So that's our little classical choice there, Mike, and a beautiful piece of music I'm sure a lot of people will recognise. And talking of recognisable music, in Norwich itself, where would you have gone to purchase the hit parades?
Well, in the early days, we didn't have a lot of money and that, but there was one particular place I used to go to, and this was before I was married. I was given for my 21st birthday a little portable record player. And one of the places I used to go and buy my 78s, would you believe it, records, was a place called Wilson's Music Bazaar. And it was one of these places you could go in and you would select your record and you could go into a booth and you could listen to it before you bought it. And I think a lot of people spent more time in the booth listening to the records and rejecting and going through these various. But that is initially where I purchased my first long-playing records. And another one was Wilmot's on Prince of Wales Road. They in the early days of record buying, that was another place I would go to. As strange as it may seem, we've gone from the old shellac 78 records, the vinyl LPs, through to CDs, memory sticks, and I understand now vinyl has been resurrected.
Vinyl's back, indeed.
Vinyl's back in...
Stick around a bit longer and we'll all have 78s, Mike.
That's right, yeah.
Of the old shellacs.
Yeah. Anyway, that's basically where we purchased our records and that.
That's great. I'm sure a lot of listeners will also have spent their money down at the local bazaar, picking up the hits of the day.
Yeah.
And Mike, I know you're a particular exponent of, I can't say the name, obviously, but the Echo Dot system, shall we say, smart speaker players. I hear that you listen to music from all around the world on it.
I certainly do. I would say one thing about this lady. She does respond to you, and that's a bit chauvinistic to say this, but when you tell her stop, she does. But no, I get a great pleasure of this medium. It opens up a whole world of music to you, as well as music from their catalogue. There are other stations that you can tune into. There's one in particular that I listen to quite regular. It's called Serenade Radio, and it plays all easy listening. That's the word I would say. It plays anything, the big band sounds, the people like Ted Heath, Count Basie, and all that type of thing, as well as people like Frank Sinatra and other people. I use it quite a bit. I know Trish's got to laugh at this because I'm not the best speller in the world. And I do have a computer that I use and send out emails and things like that. One of her many assets, not Trisha, I'm talking about it, although Trisha is excellent at her English, request this smart speaker to spell for me. It recognises your voice. For instance, if I ask it to spell a word, it rattles it off. I say, no, whoops, play it slower, please. And it will slow right down so that I can catch on what the word I want. So going from vinyl, shellac and CDs, memory stick, and we're now to the latest thing is artificial intelligence and voice control. I'm pretty sure this is the way technology is going to go in the future.
It's incredible, as well as getting radio, should we call it radio, from around the world and introducing you to new forms of music, perhaps, or playing your favourites as it gets to know what you like?
It's quite airy. It really is how it picks up your favourites. The voice recognition is incredible, really. I'm just blown away by it to some extent.
Well, it's a good job you don't have a heavy accent, Mike.
That does have a habit of not understanding me at times. That really.
So here at Chatterbox, we do have on offer free, and we will come and install it for you. If you have Wi-Fi already installed, then this makes it much easier. And we do have these Echo Dot systems that we can send over to you and plug in for you. So if you are interested, do let us know, unless, of course, you may be having one for Christmas. So speaking of Christmas, Mike, your last choice for this special Christmas edition of Chatterbox is a very familiar poem that people will recognise. But first of all, what does the Christmas period mean to you and Trish?
Well, Tim, it means to us, Trish and I, family. And it still applies then and now. There is a commercial side, I know, but for Trish and I, it is a great family coming together. Trish has a strong religious connection, not so much myself, but to her it is. Midnight services on Christmas Eve is a great occasion. I recall when we were having a young family, her and her late mother would go and come back. There would be a mince pie or something or other like that waiting. Trish's mum lost her husband quite early, and he was quite a young man and she was a widow for many, many, many years, but she met and married another gentleman, and they would come and spend Christmas with Trish and I. In fact, she always said, bless her heart, this is Trish's mum, I like coming spending Christmas with you because it's so quiet. I don't know why, but we just did it. We just felt it was such a lovely family occasion. Whether it was the peace of at the time or what, I don't know. But anyway, her and Billy would come over and spend Christmas with us, and that's always been a time. Even now, my daughter, who's grown up and moved away, not far, only to Buxton. In fact, we met up with her this week, and she said, I don't know what you're doing for Christmas, but you're coming to spend it with us. So, and my grandsons are coming up from London, and once again, it's going to be a great family coming together. And to us, that is Christmas. The carols, we have in our past gone round carol singing, groaning away myself, but being my not too musical voice, but it's a lovely time of year, it really is. One of the fine exponents of Christmas, well, we feel, nobody reads it like he does, and it's John Betchman reading his poem called Christmas.
The bells of waiting Advent ring. The tortoise stove is lit again, and lamp oil light across the night has caught the streaks of winter rain. In many a stained glass window sheen, from crimson lake to hooker's green. The holly in the windy hedge, and round the manor house the yew will soon be stripped to deck the ledge, the altar, font, and arch and pew, so that the villagers can say the church looks nice on Christmas Day. provincial public houses blaze, the corporation tramcars clang, on lighted tenements I gaze, where paper decorations hang, and bunting in the red town hall says, Merry Christmas to you all. And London shops on Christmas Eve are strung with silver bells and flowers, as hurrying clocks the city leave to pigeon-haunted classic towers, and marbled clouds go scudding by the many-steepled London sky, and girls in slacks remember Dad, and oafish louts remember Mum, and sleepless children's hearts are glad, and Christmas morning bells say come, even to shining ones who dwell safe in the Dorchester Hotel. And is it true, this most tremendous tale of all, seen in a stained glass window's hue, a baby in an ox's stall, the maker of the stars and sea, become a child on earth for me. And is it true? For if it is, no loving fingers tying strings around those tissued fripperies, the sweet and silly Christmas things, bath salts and inexpensive scent, and hideous tie so kindly meant. No love that in a family dwells, no carolling in frosty air, nor all the steeple-shaking bells can with this single truth compare, that God was man in Palestine and lives today in bread and wine.
And that's John Betjeman there with his Christmas, The Bells of Waiting Advent Ring. And we're just drawing a close to the end of this Chatterbox Christmas special, where we've spoken with Mike Blythe, long-time volunteer, and wife Trish, with regards to his imminent departure from Chatterbox. And remember, you can always find out more about some of the things that we've talked about, the Nancy Oldfield Trust, if you wish to be involved, or if you're interested in one of the smart speakers that we can offer you for free. Just give the office a ring, 01603 765 365. Our last words on this section go over to Mike.
Thank you, Tim. Just a bit to wind up this session. On behalf of Trish and I and the Chatterbox team, may I wish all our listeners a peaceful Christmas. And as the year draws to an end, do you mind how you go on together?
We're going to end with an extra piece of audio, which is a recording of one of Mike's favourites, Richard Burton, a fellow South Walian. He is reciting a poem called The Desiderata. and that's followed by Johnny Mathis.
Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even the dull and ignorant. They too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexations to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain and bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let this not blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself, especially do not feign affection. Neither be cynical about love, for in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, it is perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune. But do not distress yourself with imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be, and whatever your labors and aspirations. In the noisy confusion of life, keep peace with your soul. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be careful. Strive to be happy.
A ray of hope flickers in the sky. A tiny star lights up way up high. All across the land dawns a brand new morn. This comes to pass when a child is born. A silent wish sails the seven seas. The winds of change whisper in the trees, and the walls of doubt crumble, tossed and torn. This comes to pass when a child is born. A rosy hue settles all around. You've got the feel you're on solid ground. For a spell or two, no one seems forlorn. This comes to pass when a child is born. And all of this happens because the world is waiting for one child. Black, white, yellow, no one knows. But a child that will grow up and turn tears to laughter, hate to love, war to peace, and everyone to everyone's neighbor. And misery and suffering will be words to be forgotten forever. It's all a dream and illusion now. It must come true sometime soon, somehow. All across the land dawns a brand new morn. This comes to pass when a child
as the Pearl and Dean music fades away, we get ready for our answers to the Songs from Films quiz. Remember, you can have the title of the film, you can have the title of the song, or even somebody that was in the film. So let's say our first track. I wonder if you remember this.
Sing it, Sam.
You must remember this. A kiss is just a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time goes by. And when two lovers woo, they still say I love you. On that you can rely. No matter what the future brings as time goes by.
Sam, I thought I told you never to play.
Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she had a walk into mine. That's Humphrey Bogart. Great impression, that. That's Humphrey Bogart with Ingrid Bergman and Dooley Wilson singing As Time Goes By, which was a jazz standard from 1931, but re-recorded specially for this 1942 film from Michael Curtiz. Next up, Song 2.
Sitting on a sofa on a Sunday afternoon, going to the candidates' debate. Laugh about it, shout about it when you've got to choose. Every way you look at it, you lose. Where have you gone, Joe DiMaggio? Our nation turns its lonely eyes to you. What's that you say, Mrs. Robinson? Joe to Joe has left and gone away. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey.
Of course, that was Simon and Garfunkel, formerly known as Tom and Jerry. That's Mrs. Robinson from The Graduate, 1967's film by Mike Nichols, starring Dustin Hoffman as the young man seduced by the older lady Anne Bancroft, Mrs. Robinson. Song number 3.
When I was just a little girl, I asked my mother, what will I be? Will I be pretty? Will I be rich? Here's what she said to me. Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera, what will be, will be. When I grew up and fell in love, I asked my sweetheart what lies ahead.
That's Doris Day singing Que sera, sera, whatever will be, from the 1956 film The Man Who Knew Too Much. Produced and directed by Alfred Hitchcock, starring Jane Stewart and Doris Day. It is the remake of his own 1934 film, which starred Leslie Banks and Edna Best. Also Nova Pilbeam, but of course remembered for the astounding performance by Peter Lorre. Song number 4.
That my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest, and the world will be better for this. That one man, scorned and covered with scars, still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star.
Impossible Dream, sung there by Matt Monro. From the musical based on Cervantes' Don Quixote de la Mancha, that's the story of Don Quixote, who fights the impossible dream trying to remain chivalrous through to the end in an age where knights are no more. The musical being Man of La Mancha, with Peter O'Toole in the film version, I believe. Now the next one, a rather unusual song appearing in a western.
Raindrops keep falling on my head, but that doesn't mean my eyes will soon be turning red. Crying's not for me, 'cause I'm never gonna stop the rain by complaining, because I'm free. Nothing's worrying me.
That was Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head from, you guessed it, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Robert Redford and Paul Newman, shooting it out in the Mexican deserts. Brilliant. And our sixth song.
To see we're after the same rainbows and waiting round the bend, my huckleberry friend, Moon River and me.
Of course, it's Audrey Hepburn singing Moon River from Breakfast at Tiffany's. I've never had breakfast at Tiffany's. She always chucks me out. Our seventh song, the rather unusual one.
Well, if you want to say yes, say yes. And if you want to say no, say no. 'Cause there's a million ways to go. You know that there are. And if you want to be me, be me. And if you want to be you, be you. 'Cause there's a million things to do. You know that there are. You can do what you want. The opportunity's on. And if you find a new way, you can do it today. You can make it all true. And you can make it undo. You see.
It's Cat Stevens singing his own composition, If You Want to Sing Out, Sing Out. And that comes from a marvellous film called Harold and Maude, a counterculture film from the early 1970s. A wonderful piece. And our last and most Christmassy number, can you guess what this was?
Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be.
The title's in the song, obviously. Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, sung there by Judy Garland from her then husband Vincente Minnelli's Meet Me in St. Louis. A wonderful film, very emotional and evocative of its time. So we'll play out now with the end of that. I hope you've done well with your scores, and stick with us. We'll have another quiz next year. Fingers crossed.
Next year all our troubles will be miles away. Once again, as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. were dear to us will be near to us once more. Someday soon we all will be together if the fates allow. Until then, we'll have to muddle through somehow. So have yourself a merry little Christmas now.
This last section includes some requests made from listeners. Regular contributor Richard Rains contacted us as he wanted to hear a couple of readings from the Chatterbox archive. And we also have a different selection of songs that tell the Christmas story. We begin with a piece from the archives. And the much-missed Brian Clark reads Mariette Edgar's famous northern poem, The Lion and Albert.
There's a famous seaside place called Blackpool that's noted for fresh air and fun, and Mr. and Mrs. Ramsbottom went there with young Albert, their son. A grand little lad was young Albert, all dressed in his best, quite a swell, with a stick with an horse's head handle, the finest that Woolworths could sell. They didn't think much to the ocean, the waves, they was fiddling and small. There was no wrecks and nobody drowned. In fact, nothing to laugh at all. So, seeking for further amusement, they paid and went into the zoo, where they'd lions and tigers and camels, and old ale and sandwiches too. There were one great big lion called Wallace. His nose were all covered with scars. He lay in a somnolent posture, with the side of his face on the bars. Now Albert had heard about lions, how they was ferocious and wild. To see Wallace lying so peaceful, well, it didn't seem right to the child. So straightway the brave little fella, not showing a morsel of fear, took his stick with its horse's head handle and pushed it in Wallace's ear. You could see that the lion didn't like it, for giving a kind of a roll, he pulled Albert inside the cage with him and swallowed the little lad whole. Then Pa, who had seen the occurrence and didn't know what to do next, said, "Mother, yon lion's et Albert." And Mother said, "Well, I am vexed." Then Mr. and Mrs. Ramsbottom, quite rightly when all's said and done, complained to the animal keeper that the lion had eaten their son. The keeper was quite nice about it. He said, "What a nasty mishap. Are you sure that it's your boy he's eaten?" Pa said, "I'm sure. There's his cap." The manager had to be sent for. He came and he said, "What's to do?" Pa said, "Yon lion's et Albert, and him in his Sunday clothes too." Then Mother said, "Right, young fella, I think it's a shame and a sin for a lion to go and eat Albert after we've paid to come in." The manager wanted no trouble. He took out his purse straight away, saying, "How much to settle the matter?" And Pa said, "What do you usually pay?" But Mother had turned a bit awkward when she thought her Albert had gone. She said, "No, someone's got to be summoned." So that was decided upon. Then off they went to the police station, in front of the magistrate chap. They told him what happened to Albert, and proved it by showing his cap. The magistrate gave his opinion, that no one was really to blame, and he said that he hoped the Ramsbottoms would have further sons to their name. At that, Mother got proper blazing, and "Thank you, sir, kindly," said she. What? Waste all our lives raising children to feed ruddy lions? Not me.
Well, that was good. And now, here's Sam with a special Christmassy piece.
King John's Christmas by A. Milne. King John was not a good man. He had his little ways, and sometimes no one spoke to him for days and days and days. And men who came across him when walking in the town, they gave him a supercilious stare, or passed with noses in the air, and bad King John stood dumbly there, blushing beneath his crown. King John was not a good man, and no good friends had he. He stayed in every afternoon, but no one came to tea. And round about December, the cards upon his shelf, which wished him lots of Christmas cheer and fortune in the coming year, were never from his near and dear, but only from himself. King John was not a good man, and yet had his hopes and fears. They'd given him no present now for years and years and years. But every year at Christmas, while minstrels stood about, collecting tribute from the young for all the songs they might have sung, he stole away upstairs and hung a hopeful stocking out. King John was not a good man. He lived his life aloof. Alone he thought a message out while climbing up the roof. He wrote it down and propped it against the chimney stack. To all and sundry, near and far, F. Christmas in particular, and signed it not Johannes R., but very humbly Jack. I want some crackers and I want some candy, and I think a box of chocolates would come in handy. I don't mind oranges, and I do like nuts, and I should like a pocket knife that really cuts. And oh, Father Christmas, if you love me at all, bring me a big red India rubber ball. King John was not a good man. He wrote this message out and gat him to this room again, descending by the spout. And all that night he lay there, a prayer to hopes and fears. I think that's him a-coming now. Anxiety bedewed his brow. He'll bring one present anyhow, the first I had for years. Oh, forget about the crackers and forget the candy. I'm sure a box of chocolates would never come in handy. I don't like oranges, I don't want nuts, and I have got a pocket knife that almost cuts. But oh, Father Christmas, if you love me at all, bring me a big red India rubber ball. King John was not a good man. And next morning, when the sun rose up to tell a waiting world that Christmas had begun, and people seized their stockings and opened them with glee, and crackers, toys, and games appeared, and lips with sticky sweets were smeared, and King John said grimly, "As I feared, nothing again for me." I did want crackers, and I did want candy. I know a box of chocolates would come in handy. I do love oranges. I did want nuts. And oh, if Father Christmas had loved me at all, he would have brought a big red India rubber ball. King John stood by the window and frowned to see below the happy bands of boys and girls all playing in the snow. A while he stood there watching and envying them all, when through the window, big and red, there hurtled by his royal head and bounced and fell upon the bed an India rubber ball. And oh, Father Christmas, my blessings on you fall, for bringing him a big red India rubber ball.
To end this recording, a small selection of requests that reflect on the meaning of Christmas. O Holy Night from Andre Roux. This is followed by John Rutter conducting the City of London Sinfonia with the Cambridge Singers version of Joy to the World. Then Irish boy band The Bachelors with their 1960s hit I Believe, followed by Louis Armstrong, What a Wonderful World, and the Tabernacle Choir, Unto Us a Child is Born.
Holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of the dear Saviour's birth. Long lay the world in sin and error pining, till He appeared and the soul felt His worth. A thrill of
drop of rain that falls, a flower grows. I believe that somewhere in the darkest night a candle glows. I believe for everyone who goes astray, someone will come to show the way. I believe, above the storm, the smallest prayer will still be heard. I believe that someone in the great somewhere hears every word. Every time I hear a newborn baby cry, or touch a leaf, or see the sky, then I know why I believe. Every time I hear a newborn baby cry, or touch a leaf, or see the sky, then I know why I believe.
Some of you young folks been saying to me, "Hey, Pops, what you mean, what a wonderful world? How about all them wars all over the place? You call them wonderful? And how about hunger and pollution? They ain't so wonderful either. But how about listening to old Pops for a minute? Seems to me it ain't the world that's so bad, but what we are doing to it. And all I'm saying is see what a wonderful world it would be if only we'd give it a chance. Love, baby, love. That's the secret. Yeah. If lots more of us loved each other, we'd solve lots more problems. And man, this world would be a guesser. That's why old Pops keeps saying, I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I never knew. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful
Before we hear from our founder, Meg Muggeridge MBE, with her Christmas wish for you, all at Chatterbox, Sam and I wish you all a peaceful Christmas.
And a new year full of hope, love and cheer, and sparkling with fun. Because New Year's most glorious light is sweet hope.
My wish for you, the family united, all squabbles set aside, food in the larder, knocks at the door, friendly faces, parcels piling up, cards from everyone you love, nothing forgotten, nothing singed, laughter, a little silliness, hugs, kisses and happy memories. I wish with all my heart that your Christmas will be all that it was meant to be, a little warmth in the depth of winter, a light in the dark.